Hi there guys, Dan Holton from GuitarLessonCentral.com here, and I'm going to carry on answering some of your questions. And a guy called Dave Rogerson from York in England emailed in to say, "Hi guys, I was wondering how to get more sustain on my guitar. Remember Gary Moore and Parisian Walkways? Do I need a foot pedal? If so, can you recommend one? Thanks." Okay, so yes, sustain. Very good question. Now, it's a bit of a, there's a lot of elements you need to be considering to try and get that kind of sound where it just seems to that Spinal Tap kind of, it just goes on forever kind of sound. But fundamentally, technique is the key, okay? Because the foot pedal helps, as does the amp, as does the guitar in some instances. But the fundamental, which makes it all happen, is your technique on the guitar. So we'll talk about all of those little elements. So to begin with then, the technique. When you're kind of fretting a note, let's first of all remember that it needs to be clean and clear. Okay, and I'm doing that by just simply making sure that I'm on the sweet spot, as Eric Johnson calls it, on the guitar. So, if I'm on this B string 5th fret, I'm kind of fretting it towards the end of the fret, not in the middle, not at the back, towards the end, and then there's kind of a spot there which is the nicest part of the note, the clearest part of the note. Now, at a basic level, through a clean amp like this, that's going to kind of die out by itself unless you release the pressure. Okay, so first thing is, just make it clean as possible, and it should go on for as long as naturally possible. So that will just go on unless I accidentally pull away from the note, and then it will stop. Okay, so that's the first thing. Secondly, you can use vibrato. So if you're talking about that kind of Gary Moore Parisian Walkways thing, he's using, vibrato on the note with whatever finger, and a very, very steady vibrato. So I'm not going to go into all the details about how to do vibrato, but just nice and steady. Okay, what you should be essentially doing with vibrato is renewing the note. Okay, as you do it over and over again, with the right amp and with the right combo, you're renewing the note. Hopefully you guys can hear that. It's still going, right? And eventually you're going to get like a bit of a harmonic come through. But, by doing that, you're just taking even more out of it and making it last even longer. And I'm not pulling it out of tune. Just nice and subtle. I like doing it with my third finger because I can use my other two fingers to kind of hold myself in place so that I could just go on doing that forever. Okay? And technique-wise, they're the main two things. Okay, so if you're hitting the sweet spot on the fret, and you've got your vibrato working very nicely, so a lot of people when they first start doing vibrato, they'll bend it slightly out of tune, they'll start releasing the pressure, so I'm giving it consistent pressure, but not a crazy amount, and I'm making it very, very neat and tidy. If I slowed it right down, that's kind of how that vibrato sounds. It's like a waveform going in and out absolutely symmetrically. Okay, so technique-wise, they're the key parts. Okay, obviously making good contact with it in the first place with your plectrum. All too many times I remember going for a big note and raking straight past it and feeling like a bit of a chump. So, make a good contact with it with the plectrum. Now, as far as gear goes then, you're only going to get so much out of a clean amp like that. So, I would actually start with the amp before you think of the pedal. So there are certain amps that kind of work slightly better with that kind of high gain sound, and typically you think of amps like Marshall amps, Orange amps, Black Star. There's all kinds of them. I mean, any kind of high gain amp where you can kind of bring the drive up on it rather than just a kind of master volume. So bring the drive up, which kind of basically breaks up the sound and makes it distorted. That is going to basically kind of work alongside your guitar, and you'll create kind of a loop of sustain, a kind of feedback sustain, you could consider it. And that's one way to go. So get the amp like that. So this nice, cool little Fender Blues Junior here that I've got, that's not going to provide that sound. It's not designed for that kind of thing, that kind of elongated sound. So that's where you might think about getting the pedals. So down here I've got a few pedals, and any kind of overdrive will help. So this is for example, this is an overdrive. If you listen to this is like a preamp overdrive. And you can can hear it goes on a bit longer. Okay, and I'm kind of working it, but most of it's still in the technique. And I'd really have to push that very hard. That's on the top. I've dialed that into the top of the gain. That's called a BB Plus. I've got an OCD full tone pedal down here, which is very cool as well. I'll kind of write the descriptions underneath the video just in case you want to kind of check out these pedals. And then a distortion pedal as well is a very good idea. So overdrive and distortion, slightly different kinds of things. Distortion kind of creates a different sound. Overdrive kind of works a bit more with the amp to just push the amp quite hard. So distortion will give you that more classic kind of rock kind of sound. As well as a bit more of a metal sound if you really push it. I mean, you know, you've got to go out and try these things. But a fuzz will help as well. That's your kind of typical Jimi Hendrix style fuzz kind of pedal. But for me, the key is finding the right amp, not the right pedal. You kind of find the amp that works for you with a gain and then build the pedals up from there. It's no good getting a really high gain, beautiful pedal and then plugging it through the cleanest amp you've ever heard in your life, because they don't really want to be together. You know, they're not a marriage made to last. You know, I would get the amp and then buy the pedals in front of that. So, you know, there's loads of little ideas there, but fundamentally the technique is key. But hopefully that helps.